Hi there, James, day 26. This is the second or third time I've tried to shoot this video because it's big. Um, First one involved a story of how a parent was asking about, so their child was having quite angry outbursts at home and at school, and asking a martial arts school, you know, will this make my child worse? I was like, no, it won't. And then I explained why. But then through explaining to the parent some of the reasons why the child might be acting out and why our martial art program actually helps them deal with it, it started bringing back memories of me as a child. So I wasn't well as a child, full stop. And then I got CFS and all that around when I was 7. And I was a handful. Besides not being able to like physically move myself sometimes, or sleeping lots, or just being sick all the time, or just besides all of that, which is quite kind of quiet, there would be times when it would just be so much I would just have an outburst, and I would just, I don't know, I'd become unreasonable, as it were, to the point where like sometimes it'd take 2 or 3 adults to hold me down for a doctor's appointment. I did like at one point I got so over needles that it was just something would switch and like no. My poor mum would be in the shopping centre and I would just nah, and I'd lose it like the amount of grief I've caused my mum is quite incalculable. Oh, by the way, I don't mean grief as in like grief. I mean, you know, the amount of challenging times I've given my mum. There we go. The amount of challenging times I've given my mum. Yeah, that's another one. And sometimes I was a rat bag. Sometimes I was just not behaving and interacting as optimally as I could have. But the thing is, I was a child, and a child only has so many ways of expressing themselves. The world is new to a child. They don't have as many coping mechanisms or ways of expressing themselves as, say, an adult. And even adults don't express themselves as well as they could. So as a child, I would sometimes throw a tantrum or be inconsolable. I would just, all this pent up blah would just like be let out. And why this is so hard for me to share on this video, besides the fact that I haven't really shared this kind of thing, what's hard for me to share about it is it's this Coke bottle that's been shaken up really tight, and if I were to undo the lid, it would just explode. And as a child, it would sometimes explode. And as I got older, I just learned to, instead of outbursting externally, I outbursted internally. But the thing is, like, if you've got a child who is chronically ill, or even for yourself, and still applies to normal children as well, it's just this is about CFS. If your child is acting out, you just have to remember that they have a limited means of expressing themselves. And there are going to be times when it's just going to build up, and there's got to be a release. And that release might just be a full-on tantrum. And then that's where you have to introduce pattern breaks and stuff like that. You need to learn the best one for your child. For me, and the one that I find really good, is like a small splash of cold water on the face. It's just enough of a pattern break to break that continuous cycle that allows the brain to go, whoa, and like derail for a moment and hop off. I don't know if this is considered bad by some or it's like proven to not be good, but I have not ever seen anything wrong with it. And I always found it'd be more preferable to like slapping their face, or because physical physical wouldn't necessarily be what's required for a pattern interrupt. You could have smacked me and you would have just enraged me further. Cold water on the face is that kind of shock, like that breathing, like whoa, and then just breathe. Okay, so that's all like when it was really extreme, but it can just be something simple as like, are you really upset right now? Yes. Okay, you don't have to stop crying, but all you gotta do is keep breathing. And that's simple. You don't have to stop crying. Like, you're not going to try and stop them crying. Just make sure they're breathing. That's enough to be enough of a pattern interrupt. When I was really bad though, I'm pretty sure it was cold water on the face. Not a lot. I'm not talking like get a giant bucket and just pour it over my head, but just a little bit of water on the face, and I found it works really good for those extremer of cases where there was no verbal interaction capable. If there's verbal interaction capable, then usually you can talk them out of it. But when they're like gone, when I was gone, then no, I needed something to derail me, and that's what we used. I'll admit this isn't my best video. I just wanted to share, like, if you're a parent of a sick kid and they do this, you're not a bad parent. They've just filled up their glass and it's overflowing. They've just got to express themselves. So you're not a bad parent. There are things that you can do to help them, of course, but not a bad parent. So I think that's mainly what I want to get across to this video for all the parents out there. Be empathetic, listen, talk. Don't think that you're a bad parent. Be kind to you and your child, and don't be harsh on yourself. Okay, so I think that's mainly for the parents, this one. Thank you very much for letting me share with this one. It has been a bit hard because it's a really foggy patch in my brain and memory. I just remember kind of what I was like. And yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask away, or if you want to introduce yourself, like, share, subscribe, and thank you very much for Data 26.